Welcome, a warm welcome to everyone. My name is Greta, and on behalf of OPIT, Open Institute of Technology, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to today's roundtable discussion on the topic of tech skills as a resilience tool. So how to build a career in a fast-changing economic landscape.
It's my pleasure to welcome Professor Francesco Profumo. Francesco is the rector of OPIT, also a former Minister of Education of Italy. His extensive background includes a number of leadership positions in academia. He's an author. He's served on many boards of several companies, national research institutions and foundations. It's wonderful to have him with us today. We're also joined by Ioana Iordache-Gescu, who is a prominent leader in the field of technology talent and talent acquisition and diversity, equity and inclusion strategies. She has over a decade of experience working with renowned companies that you will be familiar with that include Booking.com, Criteo, Wayfair, and has established talent hub sites driving diversity and inclusion, which will be at the heart of today's discussion. Sabya Dasgupta, who joins us from Toronto, is a big data and MLOps technologist, a former lead architect at Microsoft and one of the star faculty at OPIT. As a data architect engineer, Mr. Dasgupta has designed and delivered impactful data and analytics transformations, shaping data science and strategies for companies. We'll also be joined by Paco Awisi. Paco is the Vice President of Data and Reporting at Morgan Stanley, a lead instructor at McGill in Canada, and again, another member of this wonderful faculty at OPIT. He brings over 15 years of experience in helping organizations become more data-driven, generating growth, reducing costs, increasing revenues. So with a panel like that, I'm just here for the questions and enjoy listening what they have to share with us. We began, Ioana, talking about such a rapidly changing economic landscape. Your career has been built around the technology field and talent acquisition, even since the beginning of the year, as we think about ChatGPT, GPT-4, and the advancement in AI. Perhaps there is a feeling that tech jobs will be commoditized, but is that the reality?
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. I think there is a certain scaredness that people are looking at the moment, and that's for every field, right? But ultimately, what we are looking at is what we call in the industry centaurs. So people who are augmented by the machine, people who are actually able to put more output out there and create more value for the organizations and the institutions or ecosystems that they are in. So ultimately, we don't see, there is so much scarcity on tech talent worldwide. All countries, all governments, all organizations are struggling to hire fast enough the talent that they need at the time they are building and they're looking to innovate in their field. So the short answer will be no, but I think there is a certain reality check that we need to have, that the industry is changing in a fascinating way and in a very fast way. I think what OPIT is looking to do is actually to give people the tools to stay in the time, right? And to stay present with the changes and to be able to pivot and really incorporate all these opportunities in their current work. And this is what the organizations will be asking. We already see prompt engineers as a demand in the market, which is a fascinating field already within like a couple of months. So ultimately, yes, it will change. It will probably become more accessible, which is also what we're looking at. We want to equalize the opportunity that we have in the world, but also give the organizations the opportunity to tap into talent as much as they need it for what they needed at that time.
Right. And you talk about that talent shortage, Ioana. I think that the International Monetary Fund estimates that that shortage will be around 85 million tech workers by 2030. But at the heart of that, it's keeping your skills up to date to be able to adapt and use these ever-evolving tools.
And to also really understand that within, let's say, engineering world, even if you look now on major job boards, you see at least 30 different career paths. So you will have your, let's say, regular developers, backend, front-end, full stack, but then you will have a lot of infrastructure. Then you have cybersecurity. Then you have AI and machine learning. You have research. You have production. The diversity within the field is extremely interesting to kind of be aware of and not limit within like, oh, there is a surplus of engineers for, I don't know, backend. That doesn't mean it's a surplus of engineers on all the career paths that we have in engineering.
Right. And this idea, Paco, that of course technology, now whether it's in healthcare, sustainability, finance, it sort of threads its way through all sectors and industries. What is your perspective in terms of that skills shortage? You've managed big tech teams in major financial institutions. So what do you see at an industry level?
Yes, I think that one of the key takeaways of the discussion today, as we're hearing now, is that this skill shortage uniformly affects every industry. So as a manager in large tech teams in this field for the past decade or so, I've seen firsthand how companies struggle due to the scarcity of professionals in the field. First and foremost, if you think about it, one of the consequences of the gradual digitalization of everything and the rapid advancement in technology has been this massive growth in the amount of data, but as well as what's possible to do with that data. So this has significantly increased the demand for tech-savvy professionals who have the technical skills, who have the practical management skills to create value with that data, to reduce costs, to increase revenue using all of that data. However, the supply of these professionals has not kept pace. That's one thing that's evident. Key areas such as applied data science, machine learning, cloud computing are experiencing the most severe shortages. And there are a few reasons for this. First, the technology landscape is evolving so fast that academic, or I would say traditional academic institutions, often struggle to match and keep up with. New programming languages, new tools, new frameworks, machine learning models emerge constantly. Every week, every month, there's a new one. So keeping up the educational curricula up to date, it poses a significant challenge. On top of that, many of those fields require a high level of practical knowledge and hands-on practice to be acquired. So companies, whether it's financial institutions, pharma companies, telecommunication companies, it makes it harder for us to recruit top talent. We often have to offer very, very competitive salaries that are higher than other domains, more benefits, and rethink the hiring approach. For example, managers such as myself, most of them now are much more interested in individuals who have acquired those practical skills through personal development, through continuing education, rather than any particular diploma. And finally, one point that I would like to make to your question is that this is a significant challenge for companies, but it's a significant opportunity for individuals. Ambitious individuals who are interested in personal development, they have a real opportunity to relatively quickly learn practical skills that are in high demand and offer great career opportunities, regardless of what their previous education was. So overall, I think the tech skill shortage is a significant challenge for companies, but I think for individuals, it should be seen as an opportunity.
And Paco, as we began, Professor Profumo was talking about a university approach that perhaps historically had too much theory and too little practical approach. So from what you're describing, to be able to bring those elements together, even in your own background, you're VP of data reporting at Morgan Stanley, a lead instructor at McGill, and a professor at OPIT, it's that ability to bring sort of industry understanding to then match the learning process.
Correct. And I would say, if I take myself as an example, my background is in commerce and marketing, but I did degrees such as what OPIT is offering on my own accord after I finished my my university education, after I finished my master's degree in my regular university, if you will. I studied in data, And I did all these professional continuing education and development, and this is how I ended up as a VP today at Morgan Stanley and at previously at TELUS. I also worked in private companies. There's plenty of opportunities for those who have, and it's not theoretical. Companies are looking for practical skills of people who can actually deliver value in those fields.
I guess, Dr. Dasgupta Sabia, you're also at this excellent illustration, both as lead solution architect when you were with Microsoft and now in your faculty role with OPIT. Perhaps it's a fallacy to talk about a future-proof career. You know, the markets really don't work that way. But what is your sense or perspective on the resiliency of jobs in the tech field in this era of artificial intelligence, and how our viewers can really ensure that the skills that they've developed will ensure that they're always relevant in that market?
Thanks, Matt, for asking that question. It's a pleasure to be invited here, firstly. As a former architect with Microsoft, I had the opportunity to see rapid advancements of AI technology and its impact on the job market, on enterprises. There is no doubt denying that AI and automation will continue to transform the work landscape that we are seeing in front of us. But some of the things I firmly believe, and seeing some of the activities like the ChatGPT and how Microsoft is rolling out features within Bing that you see every day, I can share some perspectives which I think are very valuable. One is evolution, not replacement, which is something Steve Jobs always said. If you look into the list of animals who can run fast and the energy they spend in running, you would see humans are not even in the top 10. But humans discovered and invented bicycles, which takes us to the top 1. So this is the ability to evolve with AI. We need to do that. The next thing is the demand for AI expertise. With my prestigious colleagues before me talked about how there's a rapid expansion of this demand, and so therefore we need our workforce to embrace this, and our university and traditional our academic institutions are struggling to keep up with the pace, and when they are not figuring out where should they talk to, because by the time they create these structures, the course material actually has to change, because it's a very fast moving landscape. Like Paco mentioned, libraries and APIs are coming every day. The next is the ethical considerations and the governance. With an increasing reliance on AI technologies, we need to think about how to talk to this in an unbiased manner without harming the company's reputation. A big company like Johnson & Johnson, right, or Tata in India, they have hundreds of years of legacy. They cannot just destroy that on a ChatGPT like a module overnight. So they are really concerned in rolling something this out. In a regulated industry like Goldman Sachs, big banks, RBC, they are really thinking about doing this in a constructive way without risking themselves too much. This is something which young people should consider, that not just blue blood technology and computer science, you need to bring in these soft skills to think about this, but apply that in a practical and way, not just theoretical way. The next is adaptability and continuous learning. Can we continuously learn new technology stacks? One of the interesting things one of my mentors said when I was moving out of academia is, in a PhD or a postdoc scenario, you have a relatively large amount of time to learn something and prove your value. In industry, we don't have that. We use this thing called, fail fast, which if you reverse that, you say learn faster, right? Because if you cannot learn faster, you cannot try something and you cannot fail. So really, we need young people who can learn new things really fast. This is the skill that we need to teach people today. Two more things I will talk about is collaborative problem solving. We really undervalue this. This is something which academia can give you. A lot of people try to diss on academia because of its deficiencies, but academia can teach you how to solve problems in large groups. Look at Large Hadron Collider. right? They are working across globally and solving the world's largest, most complex problems across in a globally distributed pattern with hundreds and thousands of scientists writing a single paper sometimes. This is something we need to do to be successful at an enterprise scale. How do I create collaboration and solving problem? Because anybody who has done data strategy at a large organization knows we don't fail because we didn't have the right tools. We failed because we didn't have the right people or the right processes. So I think we need people who can learn to solve problems collaboratively. We need leaders who will help that facilitate that process. And the last piece is job creation through innovation. I was taking a flight a couple of years back at San Francisco, and the lady who was taking my ticket and checking it, she was concerned and said, Sabia, should I be learning some Python? I'm really concerned I wouldn't have my job because they're putting these machines. And I really shared with all my heart, that what, with tools that are available online, that time Coursera was just landing, the MOOC phenomena was happening. You can actually do that. So the products of that revolution is people like myself and Paco who did a traditional education in computer science or something, and then we realized that we don't have all the skills to bridge to the industry. So we went and did those courses, and we were able to get into the industry and take really high impactful positions. So with that, I would kind of stop my dialogue about how we should be approaching this. It's not the robots are taking over. We will take over this technology, and we will refactor ourselves. We will be these new machines which can help, again, like Steve Jobs' vision, right? It will help us to become a better version of ourselves.
I also wonder, Oana, as we take the theme of Sabia talking about collaboration, OPIT is attracting students from all over the world for their bachelor's and their master's programs, which is perhaps a mirror of today's society, where we might have head office of Booking.com in the Netherlands, but working with teams in Bangalore and teams in Latin America. So as you think about the skills to learn to collaborate together, have we overstated the idea of where people get their bachelor's or master's degree? And what is more important is what and how they've learned to work with people and to learn the skills that they will need.
I think there are, sorry.
Sorry, Yana, go ahead.
Thank you, Sabia. Just referring back to about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when I started working in technology recruitment, Google, Facebook were hiring only from Stanford, Harvard, and MIT. That was standard practice. Very quickly, within a couple of years, they realized if we want to grow fast, if we want to tap into the diversity of the world, if we want to solve problems with so much different perspective than just this one, we need to open up. And that's what happened. That's what's happening today. All large organizations that are very serious about innovation, they really look at what people bring and how they, somebody said on this panel, you don't stop learning, right? So while you do your one master or your bachelor, you go on to actually continue that learning journey wherever the resources are. So to the point of let's say, would you have a preferential treatment if you are coming from this top 10 universities of the world? Maybe. I don't want to be naive about that. But ultimately, we see a switch, a complete different switch, right? In incorporating people who actually can come from backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, a variety of different learning paths, but they are skill-based and competency-based. And to the point of mixing that technical knowledge with the capacity to collaborate and solve problems together. Nobody fixes anything on a solo journey, right? So the capacity to work with different cultures, with communication styles, with a variety of other functions as well, right? I think what OPIT is also bringing in is a diversity of academia and teachers and practitioners to help you understand that while you might be a brilliant coder, you actually need to understand agile and build products with your chief of marketing, right? So the communication and the collaboration skills, when we are applying a variety of processes to interview and filter and hire people, the technical ability is about 30%, right? The pedigree or the reputation of an organization is as good as your skills during that process. So it really, there's no downside to it. Like we have in the industry, a lot of people who just do the 6 months of boot camps and then they continue learning by themselves through books or through a partner, right? And the journeys are very different. And this is what I think we also value in organization, in enterprise and corporates, that you don't have one single type. And that's where the magic happens, right?
And from what you're describing, Oana, HR departments, it's no longer hiding behind, well, they went to Carnegie Mellon, they went to MIT or Imperial College.
That's a luxury, right? That is a true luxury. That is not possible anymore. The scarcity is so real, but also the disadvantage of hiring people with one cloth, right? Like one type of color in a way. It's dangerous for an organization. So it's intentionally now built in that you build internship programs, campus programs, hiring drives in a variety of countries and with a variety of backgrounds. We were hiring, for example, in booking tech refugees, people who were coming from Syria at that point in Afghanistan a couple of years back into the Netherlands. They would not have the top universities of the world, but they were brilliant engineers, right? So ultimately, just understanding the ecosystem you are in and taking advantage of that makes somehow both organizations, the academic ecosystem, and of course the talent workforce thriving together, right? It's just a bit of an understanding of how those fit together, and there's no one way.
And with your HR expertise, Oana, Sabia's point about collaborative solutions, learning to study in a team, is that a great platform from which, it says to you, they're going to be able to work in the same sort of international teams that are now the reality of the modern workforce?
I think somebody put a question here, like, how do we adapt? The things are changing too fast. And the way you adapt is being close to people who are facing the same issues, right? Like we devise even learning paths together. A lot of I'll give you a very practical example, right? There was the time where waterfall was being replaced by agile methodology, and they were not, like, there's no school for agile coaches. You don't learn at university to be an agile coach. So booking from, like, because it was in a hyper growth, you go from having, let's say, 3 people who were practicing this in academia or in a variety of fields, multiplying themselves. So there are internal academia sometimes because you see the need to just move fast and the traditional paths don't help you. And I think this is where we need more of OPIT in a way, because from what I understand and talking to Ricardo, is like, we want to do what is the demand, not just for today, but for 5 years from now on, 10 years from now on, which is the biggest gap that we have.
And when it comes, Paco, to anticipating that future, we talk about agile, and Carlo, who wrote in with his question of the speed of change. As we think about AI, as we think about data science, the cloud, cybersecurity, I mean, there are so many different fields. What are your thoughts about making sure that you stay relevant and presumably also giving yourself many different options in the paths of career that you can follow?
Yes, and I couldn't agree more with what Oana was just saying. I've been recruiting a lot of people in the last few years. I've worked at a private company before. I worked at a telco before, and I can't remember a year where I wasn't recruiting in those fields. And the recruiting approach has really changed, where it's really not about the school that you went to 5 or 10 years ago, but more about the continuing education that you did recently, because most of the technologies that we're using today, they didn't exist 5 or 10 years ago even. So in the 4 areas that you mentioned, in artificial intelligence, data science, cloud computing, cybersecurity, I think it's important to think of that as a landscape of opportunities. In the AI, more specifically in machine learning, it's driving a new wave of technological innovation. as a manager, I can tell you that the demand for professionals in AI or machine learning far exceeds the supply. This includes areas such as natural language processing, where most companies now have realized that they're sitting on a gold mine of data that they didn't think of as data. So we need the engineering talent to work with that variety and volume of data the way we couldn't in the past. But AI is also used for fraud detection, for personalization of customer service. There's a wealth of opportunities in that space. When it comes to data science, and I would include also, as an extension, I would include data engineering, the ability to analyze and create value from complex data set is more valuable than ever. You think of the sheer amount of data that we're sitting on. The world is awash of data. So data scientists are key to making sense of that vast amount of data, and helping companies make data-driven decisions, forecasting trends, understanding customer behavior. Data scientists now, they get to influence strategic decisions and really contribute significantly to company success. If you think of cloud computing, all of what we're describing, a lot of what we're describing is happening in the cloud. Cloud services have revolutionized the way businesses operate. In the finance sector is no exception to it, or the healthcare is no exception to it. Knowledge and cloud platforms such as AWS, Google Cloud, Azure is highly sought after. All of this machine learning and data science is happening mostly in the cloud. So as more and more companies are moving their operations to the cloud to increase efficiency, increase flexibility, experts in cloud architecture, migration, and security are in high demand. And the last one you mentioned was cybersecurity. Every company, and financial institutions particularly, are prime targets for cyber attacks. And cybersecurity really is a top priority, as all of this data, you can imagine, is moving to the cloud. It's coming out of the company's walls. It's becoming more and more important to think of cybersecurity. Companies want to benefit from this massive amount of data, but they don't want to do it at the expense of privacy and security, and it is very detrimental for a company to have security breaches. So it is an extremely important field, and it's also worth mentioning that these fields are not siloed, right? For example, data scientists will leverage AI techniques, machine learning. Also, cloud computing play a significant role in handling data at scale. So there's a lot of overlap in these domains. So when pursuing a next generation online degree in computer science, you not only get to develop a deep understanding of a chosen specialization, but also a broad base of knowledge that will allow you to work at the intersection of all these fields.
And Paco, we always say that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. And the second best time to plant a tree is today. I take Eduardo, who sees that the world of technology is the future, and perhaps many that are have built a career in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, but say, well, maybe I could make that switch. Do you feel that perhaps with the masters from OPIT, they would then successfully be able to move into the technology field to explore these many different options that you've described?
Definitely. And it's not like the skills or the knowledge and the learning and the education that you acquired in the past. For example, myself, I did a business degree in the past 15, 20 years ago. It's not like these skills are gone. When you sort of reactualize your skills, you're almost upgrading your existing skills and bringing them in line with the current market. So I think that developing the muscle of constantly learning and staying up to date is important. I don't think you can do a degree and stop there. So I think these types of degrees is a good way to stay in the game and keep following the trends of the market. You don't want your skills to become obsolete. You don't want to be left behind by everything that's happening today with cloud computing, machine learning, AI, because these things are changing the market. They're changing the way businesses are operating. So I think it's important to stay up to date.
Right. Sabia, with the international dimension of your career, that of course includes Microsoft and your current roles, what are the characteristics or the traits that mark going from good to great for a professional in the IT industry? You know, what helps them to make that jump?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. And we are figuring out what IT means in this new data analytics landscape. 10, 15 years ago, IT was these networking cables, the server rooms, the hard disks and the RAM that you actually had to physically carry and have an operating system to kind of run on it. While I proudly say I am in the data and analytics IT career, having been an ex-architect at Microsoft, I also, distinguish myself not in it completely because IT is changing. So let me kind of introduce the new lens of IT. So Ajay Agarwal, one of the senior professors from Rotman MBA school, he says that in this new landscape, we need something like a flywheel like this. This is basically a framework which it starts keep going. Every organization like Google, Amazon, Facebook, they have the flywheel set up where they have the data, which is the fuel, which is going through their data platform, mining this data, and then the AI flywheel is coming and sitting on top of it and kind of mining insights, the BI similarly. So what does that mean? What does good to great mean is if you're really entering this field, do not get, bogged down with what degrees you bring, because it's really about value creation. We really do not at this point as hiring managers. I've interviewed over 300 people in the last 2 years through the pandemic. I have hired more than 20 people, 30 people each year, and I have seen that I never cared to some extent I did, but not to a great extent about what your PhD topic was or what your master's is, but the value you created. If the value you created can come from the courses that are relevant that you are doing to my job, and which are the core skills, the non-functional skills, which is communication, collaboration, stakeholder management. So somebody coming from a business degree can take advantage of that. Somebody coming from a core PhD has this problem solving collaborative skills that you can take advantage of. So you really dig into yourself and figure out what do I bring to the table. It's really a very much value creation phase in IT right now, and not the value protection phase which was there 20 years back, where you are protecting the value, not making any changes. We are disrupting right now, which brings me to a couple of points I will kind of maybe reiterate. What is great? Currently is technical excellence. Some of that Paco mentioned, ability to show deep knowledge over maybe cloud native technologies, maybe building deep learning model. And there, think of it like a T-shape. You would have something that you like and you want to go deep in that these courses can provide you, but you have to grow also on the other side to learn about project management, program management. So that's technical excellence. Already have mentioned problem solving abilities and ability to adapt and learn new things and communicate and collaborate in teams. This is very important. The next, I think, great means professionalism and integrity. This is very important in regulated industries like insurance and healthcare. We really want people who are very professional. They show up, and they actually do the job with commitment. We are seeing a little bit of a tussle about remote work and whether you should be coming. It's really because organizations are not able to figure out how do you create that sphere of professionalism and integrity on the workforce level. So as we are figuring that out, we need great people. We need young people to show great, skill sets that can convince the corporate world that we can do it even without forcing ourselves to the agonies of a TTC transit or all that stuff. The last piece I will mention is, if you really want to grow into a great IT career, you need to be able to grow others, which is show leadership, show mentorship, show allyship, show sponsorship. Small things go a long way. If somebody asks you on LinkedIn, can you refer me in this company? Don't say no. A lot of people say, I don't know you, I cannot refer you. Do not do that. Referring you gets you a referral bonus, but more importantly, it gets somebody a jump into a career. And at the end of the day, you know, you would remember and reflect, I gave some people an opportunity, which I always wanted, and somebody gave me as well, right? I got my first job because somebody gave me, you know, an hand, and we need to give others the hand. So please, you know, care for that. And final and the most important thing, which I'm keeping for the last, is focus on the customer. This is what a great IT person can do. Focus on who your customer is. It can be your internal stakeholders, it can be your external stakeholders, but that's your key focus. If you do all of these things, I'm sure you will be setting up for yourself for a great successful career.
It's wonderful advice. And for many of the questions coming in about the OPIT bachelor's and master's programs, Greta, at the end of this session, will be talking through some of those details, how you combine it with other studies or at this stage in the transition that you're looking to make. My last question to Professor Profumo, your career has helped so many individuals to realize their hopes and their dreams through your roles in higher education, universities, and research. If you were to then meet your younger self and give him advice, or in fact, any young individual that is thinking about their next steps, investing in education, it starts with that, Professor Profumo, right? In terms of the doors that it will open, the self-confidence that it will bring, the opportunities that will come along.
Sure, the best investment for a young girl or boy is the education. But the difference today is that in the previous generation was enough or almost enough to invest in education once in the life. What happened today, that everything is so fast and the change is fast and the future is uncertain, that we needed to go to school maybe 5, 6 times per year in the life. This means that anytime you need just to cancel something that we learned before and learn the new things. But in order to do this, you needed to have in the first part of your life as a main topic how to learn. Because if you have to learn in how to learn in the next part of your life, it's very heavy, is completely different. This means that the life for the young people will be much more interesting than our life, but in the meantime will be also much more difficult. This is the reason that today, not only for one country, but for worldwide, the priority is education. And the education is the possibility just to grow, just to get what you need in terms of life. Does not mean money, means something more. The education means culture, and the culture is the basic to have a good life.
Right. The very dynamic and visionary founder of OPIT, Riccardo Aclepo, shared with me for an article in Forbes. He said, talent is everywhere. It's all over the world. And whether it's the potential for exciting and well-rewarded careers, entrepreneurial opportunities, the versatility of skills, a degree in computer science and AI opens the door to a world of possibilities in this ever-expanding digital landscape. And I thank all 4 of you for sharing such thoughtful and distinct perspectives. The advice that you've given, I think, Sabia, you'll get lots of requests from your LinkedIn from that promise that you made, but each of you has brought in industry perspectives. It's lovely to know that everything doesn't start and finish with Stanford and MIT. All of us in making the investment that Professor Profumo was describing can take that step